Welcome to CJ 577. This is CJ Planning and Evaluation. This is your week 1 lecture, and what I wanted to do was go ahead and take the opportunity to sort of give you an overview on what we're going to be talking about for the next couple weeks, really. But I feel it's really important for me to kind of set the stage for you as you sort of embark on this project, because the final paper in this class is a large the final project in this class is a large paper, and as a result of that, you need to start working on that sooner rather than later. And so much of what we're going to talk about this week is related to laying the foundation for that paper. I guess what I really wanted to start talking about is the concept of what program evaluation is. And as you can see from the first slide, I've given you the definition straight out of the book. And it says information gathering and interpretation to answer questions about a program's performance and effectiveness. A very simple statement worth about several hundred pages on a book and at least $120, I think. Simple, but yet very, very, very complex. Program evaluation is all of those things, but what it is most importantly is the ability to take a program that either exists currently or a program that is about to exist and be able to take that program and evaluate the level to which it is effective in what it does, effective in how much it costs, and effective in terms of the outcomes that it achieves. So, as you can see from the next slide, why program evaluation? Why spend an entire class on this? Well, sometimes it's as important to know what works as what doesn't. And we have programs galore. Pick a subject. Could be social welfare programming, could be education programming. We're in the field of criminal justice, so let's talk about, say, criminal justice programming. We have lots of programs out there for drug treatment, mental health, attitude classes that target criminal attitudes, etc. And sometimes we invest large amounts of money in running those programs. And what we're interested in doing and determining is the extent to which those programs work or don't. Now, you can define work very loosely, very broadly, or very narrowly, and that's really what program evaluation seeks to do. If you're defining it in terms of how many people go through the program and complete it, that's one thing. If you're defining a program in terms of how it works with respect to how many people leave the program and don't need that program again, or who go through the program and don't recidivate, that's quite another way. That's quite another way of measuring that concept. So program evaluation it's as important to know what does work, what programs do work, as what programs don't. In some cases, when we find out that programs don't work, we have the opportunity to reallocate resources. That could be human resources, that could be fiscal resources, that could be physical resources, any number of resource types. But when you figure out whether your programs work or not, you're basically able to reallocate your resources accordingly. If I haven't said this already, or if one of your other professors hasn't said this already or discussed this in some depth, I wanted to take a minute to talk about what evidence-based practice is and how that relates to program evaluation. And basically, evidence-based practice in criminal justice comes from the medical field, and the idea that when we evaluate programs or people or anything, we want to base those evaluations on the evidence that we've collected. It could be data, it could be, how many times somebody attended a program, to what they got out of the program, to more qualitative issues like how they felt when they were in the program. But in any event, evidence-based practice is using data to drive decision making, using data to drive what programs we have, when we have them, and how we use them. So if you know what programs work through program evaluation, and you know what programs don't, and you're able to reassess or reallocate your resources accordingly, you're using evidence to do that. You're using data. You're using outcome measures to do that. And so that is particularly why program evaluation is important in criminal justice. As the next slide indicates, what does program evaluation do? Well, it does several things. It determines the actual need for a program. Do we need to have another outpatient drug treatment program? And if we do, what differentiates this program from the next? It allows us to evaluate the design of a program. Is this outpatient drug treatment program designed properly? Is it addressing all of the needs that people with drug problems have? Program evaluation assesses program implementation and service delivery. Are we, for the drug treatment program that we have, are we actually doing the program the way it was designed? Are we implementing it properly? Are we delivering services? Are we delivering counseling services or group therapy services in the way that we are supposed to, or in the way that courses often require? So we can assess program implementation and service delivery. Program evaluation also allows us to evaluate the program impact or the outcomes. How well is our drug treatment program actually doing at keeping people from using drugs once they leave the program? And then, of course, we can determine program efficiency. How well did our program use the dollars that were allocated toward it, or use the other resources that were allocated toward it? What was our return on our investment? For every dollar that we invested, what was the outcome? Were we able to reduce recidivism? Were we able to reduce the amount of drugs used, or the length of time at which people remained drug-free, all those kinds of things. So program evaluation allows us to do a number of different things to measure a number of different outcomes. So what are some of the pitfalls associated with program evaluation? Well, it's not nearly as easy as I'm making it sound. And as your book can attest, the several hundred pages that you've been assigned for this class, it's certainly not as easy as it sounds or easy as it looks. It is very complicated. If you're going to do a program evaluation correctly, you're going to take most of the time that you're going to spend on the evaluation is going to be time spent at the front end, actually designing your program, designing your evaluation, and making sure that your evaluation is targeting those things that you want to measure. What you don't want to do is say that you're going to measure A when in actuality your evaluation is measuring B. First of all, that doesn't get you anywhere. The data that you collect won't reflect adequately the results that you're hoping to get. So program evaluation requires much forethought, much planning. One of the other things or other pitfalls of program evaluation is that we must consider political and organizational issues when it comes to evaluations. Evaluations of programs normally occur with the help of others. In other words, when you're doing program evaluation, you often cannot do it in a vacuum. You didn't have the ability to design the program. You didn't have the ability to collect all the data in your program. Usually you need the help of others in order to make those things happen. So you have got to, as a program evaluator, have a really good handle on what sort of the political ramifications or political landscape is in which you are working and some of the organizational issues attached to that. This is particularly relevant in the criminal justice field if you're trying to do evaluations of policing programs or corrections programs. Most people in criminal justice in general who work in these fields do not trust outsiders, do not believe necessarily, although I would say erroneously, that research is not valid. And so a lot of the time that you spend as a program evaluator is spent trying to convince people that what you're doing is valid and what you're doing is useful, or that it's going to be useful, if not now, at some point in the future. So again, one of the pitfalls are some of the sort of political landscape you need to navigate and some of the organizational issues that you might encounter in terms of trying to collect data or get information from different people at different points in the criminal justice system. One of the other things that you have to be aware of are that you must balance the scientific needs or the scientific rigor that you expect to get from your program evaluation with just more pragmatic issues related to, is the research that I'm doing going to be useful in a meaningful way for the program for which I am conducting the research? It's really that simple. You can generate a technical report that's full of all kinds of mumbo jumbo and jargon, and people will look at it and go, that looks really interesting, but they won't read it, and maybe most importantly, they won't use it. And at the end of the day, a program evaluation, in my mind anyway, is only as good as the data that you generate and the usefulness that it serves to the people for whom you've written the report or done the work. So you've really got to be able to balance the scientific rigor, research methodological issues with more pragmatic issues that you might encounter. let's talk for a second about what goes on when you are designing a program evaluation. This is really important. This is the nuts and bolts of really what the course is about here. So let's take a few minutes to set the stage and talk about that. First things first, when designing a program evaluation, always remember why you are doing the evaluation in the first place. I realize that that sounds ridiculous and redundant, but it's true. If you enter a situation where you're conducting a program evaluation and you're scratching your head wondering, why am I doing this? Then you shouldn't be. It's as simple as that. Are you doing it, for instance, for program improvement? Are you trying to improve an existing program? Are you trying to take a drug treatment program that is working, and are you trying to make it better, for instance? Okay, good. Are you looking to hold drug treatment program providers accountable for the kinds of programs that they're providing your, say, probation clients or your parole clients? Are you looking to generate knowledge about how, say, drug treatment programs operate and the kinds of information that they share in the program with the clients they serve? But when designing a program evaluation, if I have any sort of rules of the road for you, always be careful and always be wary of hidden agendas. Everybody's got one. Everybody may want to use the data for some reason other than the reason for which you want to use it. Everybody may want to use the evaluation to justify something that you had no idea or no thought about wishing to justify. So again, I go back to saying, remember why you're doing the evaluation in the first place and be able to firmly identify that and establish that in your mind before you ever get started. Because once you get started, and if that motive or if that reasoning becomes clouded in any way, your program evaluation will suffer.